By the 6th year, I no longer loved him. Ethan and I had known each other for 12 years and had been in love for 6. During our 6-year relationship, I had quietly used my family's resources to support his company, helping it gradually get on the right track. Just days before his company was about to go public, he proposed to me, promising that he would make me the happiest woman in the world. But by chance, I stumbled upon a conversation on his computer between him and his friend. I can't forget Grace. Marrying Lily is just a responsibility. Seeing these messages, I immediately asked my mom to withdraw all investments in his company. I decided to set them free, to let them be the lovebirds they wanted to be. 1. Mom, sell off the shares in Ethan's company and pull out all the investments too. Ethan's company was on the verge of going public, and if my mom withdrew the funds at this critical moment, his company would face a devastating crisis. Did that guy bully you? I'll go teach him a lesson. My mom had pampered me since childhood, and even now, without asking for more details, she was ready to confront Ethan. I forced a bitter smile. Mom, I'll handle this myself. My voice trembled slightly as I spoke. Not wanting my mom to worry, I quickly hung up the phone. Yet my eyes remained fixed on the computer screen, the chat logs chilling me to the bone. Ethan and I couldn't be considered childhood sweethearts, but we had met when I was a freshman in high school. My parents' marriage was far from happy. In 8th grade, my dad's mistress moved in with her illegitimate daughter, and my dad forced my mom to divorce for their sake. My mom, enraged, divorced him and moved to San Francisco, leaving me as the unwelcome leftover in the family. That year, my life was in turmoil. I felt unloved by the entire world. At school, Grace would lead others to bully me. It was Ethan who shielded me, standing up to those who bullied me. Even after learning about my chaotic family situation, he would hug me with sympathy and say, "Don't be scared, Lil. Even if no one else treats you well, I will." One snowy evening, he found me trapped in the equipment room at the gym after several hours, and he carried me home on his back. As I lay on his back, I heard him say firmly, "Lily, even if the whole world abandons you, I won't." From high school to college, we stayed together. In our junior year, he used his first earnings to buy a ring and confessed his love to me. By that time, I had left the Gu family and returned to my mom in San Francisco. "Lily, will you be my girlfriend?" I was so happy I didn't know how to respond. Later, when his company faced a crisis, I begged my mom to invest in his company and provide him with resources, helping him get his business back on track. 3 years later, the company was finally about to go public. On the day his IPO application was approved, he proposed to me. I thought we had finally made it to the end, but I never expected that he didn't love me. His heart had already wandered to someone else. That someone wasn't just anyone, it was Grace, the person who had destroyed my family and bullied me. Today, Ethan left in a hurry for a business dinner, forgetting to log out of his chat app on his computer. Once again, I saw his messages with Grace. "Lily is nothing more than a stand-in for me. Are you really planning to marry her?" Ethan didn't respond to her immediately, but she continued speaking, her sense of entitlement practically oozing through the screen. "Even if you don't say it, I know. You're just trying to provoke me, trying to force me to show up. I saw your engagement photos. That ring on her finger, it's exactly the style I like. Even her dress is my taste. From beginning to end, the one you truly love has always been me." An hour later, Ethan finally replied, feeling triumphant now, knowing that I still love you. Tears blurred my vision as I clenched my palms so tightly that my nails dug into my skin. So, the 6 years between Ethan and me had been nothing but my one-sided devotion. He knew full well that Grace had hurt me the most, yet he still let himself fall for her. I reached out to my mom and told her I wanted to leave New York for San Francisco. Half an hour later, my mom sent me a plane ticket for 2 weeks later, telling me that I needed to say goodbye to the past. Just as I hung up the call, my phone rang again. "Lily, come quickly, Ethan's gotten into a fight with someone." Through the phone, I could faintly hear Ethan's drunken shouting. "You bastards better apologize to my girlfriend." My heart sank. I wasn't with him, so the girlfriend he was talking about clearly wasn't me. Curious about what had happened tonight, I put on my coat and walked to the shoe rack, where I noticed the scarf I had knit for him lying on the floor, covered in footprints. That scarf had taken me over 10 days to finish. My hands had been pricked by needles countless times, yet he treated it with such disregard. I picked up the scarf, expressionless, and tossed it into the trash can. Then I hailed a cab and headed straight to the bar where Ethan had been fighting. When I arrived, I saw Ethan holding a girl in his arms, comforting her as she sobbed pitifully. It wasn't just anyone, it was Grace. Those guys accidentally spilled wine on Ethan's friend, and Ethan just started fighting with them. Ethan's friend ran over to explain to me, "Ethan drank a lot today, and I'm worried he might get into trouble." Hearing this, I let out a bitter laugh. I remembered accompanying him to a client meeting once, where the client deliberately poured wine on my face. He didn't get angry back then. Instead, he blamed me for ruining the deal. Now, Ethan was trying to charge at the men again, but his friend quickly held him back. "Ethan, you're getting married soon, don't make a scene." Ethan shoved his friend away. "Who said I'm getting married? This jerk spilled wine on my girlfriend, how can we just let this go? If he doesn't apologize, no one's leaving." Ethan was so drunk he could barely stand. His words made his friends visibly uncomfortable, and they all turned to look at me. I let out a cold laugh, stepped forward, and slapped the man standing off against Ethan across the face. The room fell silent. The man froze for a moment before flying into a rage and lunging at me. I wanted to see if Ethan would protect me like he used to. But instead, he pushed me aside and roared, "Lily, what the hell are you doing? Are you here to make things worse? Haven't you caused enough trouble already?" Useless and disruptive, Ethan's words left me cold. He self-righteously ordered the man to leave immediately. The man, fortunately still somewhat rational, cursed a few times and left. After they were gone, Ethan collapsed onto the couch. His friends awkwardly introduced me. "Lily, don't take it to heart. Ethan's had too much to drink. This is Grace, his college friend, who just came back from overseas today." I cast a faint glance at Grace. Tears glistened in the corners of her eyes, making her look pitiful. "Gracie, this is Ethan's fiancé, Lily." I let out a cold laugh and looked at Grace. No need for introductions. I know her well. Ethan's friends looked curious about how I knew her, but Ethan interrupted before they could ask. He seemed to have sobered up a bit. "Lily, I just happened to run into Gracie today. She was being harassed by those jerks, so I—" "No matter what, she's still your sister," Ethan said, his tone full of defense for Grace. He was usually a man of few words, but now he couldn't stop talking. I stared at the man before me, a growing sense of unfamiliarity welling up inside me. I had been the one standing by him through the storms of starting his business, his fiancé, and yet now I was just a stand-in in his heart. Clenching my teeth, I fought back the tears threatening to fall. Taking a deep breath, I made up my mind. I would no longer spare Grace any dignity. "Ethan, you're mistaken. I don't have a sister. My parents only gave birth to me. She's just the product of some shameless mistress. Her mom was a mistress, and so is she." My words seemed to strike a nerve in Ethan. He flew into a rage. "Lily, how could you say such vicious things to Joy? You owe her an apology." His tone was filled with an unyielding authority. "No wonder your own parents abandoned you. No wonder everyone distances themselves from you. Your sharp tongue and cruel nature disgust me. You're destined to die alone." His words were like a dagger, stabbing deep into my heart. As if fearing I might hurt Grace, Ethan shoved me aside and stepped resolutely in front of her. Ethan's friends frowned, helped me to my feet, and for once, scolded him. "Ethan, you've gone too far." I turned my head, avoiding Ethan's gaze, but my eyes reddened despite myself. Ethan's eyes flickered with something, perhaps regret for his harsh words or a realization of my injured state. With a heavy sigh, he said, "Let's just chalk tonight up to drunken nonsense. As for the future—" "There won't be a future," I interrupted softly. "What did you say?" he asked, confused. But before Ethan could get an answer, Grace suddenly broke into tears and ran out of the room. Ethan didn't have time to dwell on his confusion. He hurriedly chased after her. In his rush, a necklace slipped out of his pocket, unnoticed. I picked it up and saw the small rose pendant engraved with a delicate Y on the back. My mind flashed to the rose tattoo on Ethan's chest. The details I had ignored before suddenly connected like threads, forming a picture. The Y wasn't for Lily's L, but for Grace's Y Joy. The rose tattoo on his chest wasn't just because he thought it looked nice. It was because Grace was the rose blooming in his heart. So, those 6 years of love had been nothing but a one-person show. If that's the case, why should I continue to cling to someone who's not worth it? Ethan's friend offered to drive me home, but I waved him off. I stuffed the pendant into my purse, wiped my tears with trembling hands, and walked out. On the way home, I couldn't hold back anymore. The tears flowed freely. 6 years together, 12 years of knowing each other. And in the end, this is how it turned out. I returned home to find the sign in the living room, originally a countdown to our wedding, now repurposed as a countdown to my departure. With a bitter smile, I began discarding every decoration and couple-related item in the house. Since fate has decided this for me, I'll use these final 2 weeks to say a complete goodbye to my past. Morning came with Ethan's call, pulling me out of sleep. "Lily, are you up? I bought your favorite pan-fried buns and had my assistant deliver them to you. But there's an urgent matter at the office today, so I might not make it back. Let's reschedule the wedding photo shoot, okay? And about last night, don't take it too seriously. I've already apologized to Grace on your behalf." I stared at the sparrow perched on a branch outside my window, feeling a chill creep into my heart. "Got it," I replied. Ethan didn't seem to expect my indifferent agreement and awkwardly added, "A wedding is just a formality. Our relationship is so strong, we don't need these things to prove anything. Let's keep it simple, all right?" "Sure, whatever you decide." My cold tone rendered him speechless on the other end of the call. After a moment of uncomfortable silence, he laughed nervously and reminded me to eat on time before hanging up. Keep it simple. This was a wedding without a marriage license, without the sweetness of wedding photos, and without the blessings of a ceremony. But that's okay, there wouldn't be a bride attending anyway. After hanging up, I picked up a black marker and drew a line through "wedding photo shoot" on the calendar. Ethan was always busy with work, rarely spending time with me. So, I had written down all the things I wanted to do most on the calendar, hoping to fulfill those wishes during this special time leading up to the wedding. Now, those wishes were being crossed out one by one, replaced by the heavy strokes of a black marker, turning into unspeakable regrets. I no longer pinned my hopes and emotions on Ethan. Instead, I prepared my resignation letter. In the days that followed, I contacted my friends one by one to inform them that the wedding was canceled. "Honestly, we saw this coming," one friend said while pulling up Ethan's social media to show me. "For a while now, Ethan's been spending all his time with Grace. To someone who doesn't know you, they might think the woman in his posts is you. But we recognized her immediately." Ethan's social media never featured me. Now it was filled with images of Grace. They laughed together at theme parks, drank wine by the seaside while waiting for the sunrise. His love for Grace was so open, so unapologetic, and yet I was blocked from his world entirely. My friend looked at me with concern. "Lily, don't let this get to you. Grace doesn't hold a candle to you. When Ethan realizes her true nature, he'll regret everything." "It doesn't matter anymore. I stopped caring a long time ago." I set my coffee cup down and turned to look at the bustling street outside the window. In just a few days, I would leave this place forever. I had no time or energy to waste mourning Ethan's betrayal. Standing outside the cafe, I watched Ethan and Grace holding hands as they walked into a bridal shop across the street. Then, I dialed my mom's number. "Mom, let's proceed with the withdrawal of our investment. Inform Ethan on his wedding day." It was time to draw a final line under everything related to Ethan. 6 years of devotion left me with lingering bitterness. But perhaps these 12 years were the most precious of my life, taking up my entire youth. I had to take responsibility for my naivety and blind devotion. Unrequited love always comes with a heavy price. However, I must let go of all of it and restart my life. So, when Ethan, who had been absent for days, suddenly showed up, I remained expressionless and unmoved. He returned, swiping rapidly on his phone as he casually glanced around the house. "Why does the place look so bare? Didn't you decorate? Weren't you the one who said to keep it simple?" I replied calmly, looking up from my tablet. Ethan was momentarily at a loss for words. His gaze landed on the countdown numbers, 7 displayed on the wall. "Time flies, just one more week until our wedding." I set my tablet down, walked to the dining table, tore 2 pages off the calendar, and crumpled them into a ball before tossing them into the trash can. "You got it wrong. It's not a week, it's 5 days." He smiled awkwardly and quickly changed the subject. At that moment, my mom called. I stepped onto the balcony to have a brief conversation. When I returned to the room, Ethan was still glued to his phone. He looked up at me. What was that about? I think I heard something about plane tickets. Nothing. A client coming in from out of town had an issue with their flight, I replied dismissively. All right, just don't plan any honeymoon trips. I'm too busy to go anywhere right now. I glanced at Ethan, lounging with his legs crossed as he scrolled through his phone, then turned away and closed the balcony door. Don't worry, I didn't plan anything. I'm busy too. Ever since Grace came back, Ethan's attention had never strayed from her for even a moment. Sensing the awkward atmosphere, I reached into the drawer of the TV cabinet and pulled out a necklace with a rose pendant, handing it to Ethan. His previously calm gaze instantly lit up. So it was with you. I've been looking for this for ages. Yeah, when I saw your Facebook post offering a high reward, I suddenly remembered picking it up on the street that day. $1 million just to find an old, inexpensive necklace. Yet the total cost of our upcoming wedding was only $200,000. As I watched Ethan fiddling with the necklace, I abruptly asked, "Where's your wedding ring?" He froze for a moment, then glanced down at his bare finger, looking slightly bewildered. I don't know when I lost it. He tried to explain, but just then, his phone chimed with a new message. It was the distinct ringtone that belonged solely to Grace. He quickly glanced at the message, then stood up and planted a light kiss on the corner of my lips. Sorry, honey, things have been so hectic lately. I'll leave the wedding arrangements to you, he said apologetically. Once this busy period is over, I promise to make you the happiest Mrs. Ethan in the world. Ethan had suddenly become adept at sweet talk. If this had been the past, I might have been overjoyed, thinking I had finally melted his icy demeanor. But now, I just watched his retreating figure with indifference. Then I went to the bathroom, brushed my teeth, washed my face, and returned to my own tasks, completely unmoved by his words. Time flew by, and before I knew it, the day before the wedding had arrived. I looked at the belongings I had packed and called a courier service to send all my large suitcases to an address in Boston. As for everything else, I tossed out what needed to be thrown away. After finishing the packing, I suddenly felt like watching the sunset from the hills, so I got in my car and drove there. In the early hours of the morning, I found myself driving alone to the beach. Wrapped in a thick blanket, I sat on the grassy slope, letting the mountain breeze caress me as I watched the sun slowly sink below the horizon. I raised my coffee cup toward the sunset. Here's to 6 years of chaos. Here's to all the years I played the fool as a substitute. Here's to loving a rotten man. It wasn't until the last traces of the sunset disappeared that I dusted off my pants, got into the car, and refreshed my social media feed. A photo from Grace popped up. It was a family dinner with Ethan seated beside her. I smiled and replied to her, "Looks like you've got quite the appetite." Then I turned off my phone and drove home. Back at my place, I began my final round of luggage checks. During the process, I unexpectedly stumbled upon Ethan's diary. The entries detailed his time years ago, during his lowest point, when he met Grace on a trip to Miami. However, the most crucial parts had been torn out, leaving only one sentence. That was the happiest time of my life. I flipped through diary after diary, and every page was filled with his longing for Grace. On the day he proposed to me, his diary read, "When I was young and foolish, I mistook a worthless stone for a rare gem and let go of the one true love of my life. No matter how hard I try, I'll never be able to turn Lily into Grace. What's done is done. For Grace's sake, I will treat Lily kindly." His handwriting was bold and powerful, each stroke seeming to carve itself into my heart. Tears streamed down my face, smudging the ink on the pages. I glanced at all the gifts Ethan had given me over the years: designer handbags, elegant dresses, jewelry, dolls, bubble tea, and even gaming consoles. All of it pointed to one undeniable truth. These were all things Grace adored. I looked at my reflection in the mirror wearing a floral dress, my long, straight black hair cascading down my back. I was the spitting image of Grace. I had thought that after 12 years together, there would be something unbreakable between Ethan and me. But he had witnessed firsthand the harm Grace had caused me over the years, yet he still chose to side with her. He knew full well that Grace was the person I hated and resented most in my life, but he insisted on molding me into her likeness. A mix of humiliation and rage surged within me. battering my heart. I changed out of the dress, pulled on my favorite hoodie and jeans, and stood before the mirror, cutting off the long hair I had kept for so many years. I would no longer be Grace's shadow. Lily is just Lily. When I settled into my first-class seat, Ethan called. His voice was laced with panic, and if I listened carefully, there was even a hint of a sob. "Lily, where have you gone?" I didn't respond. I hung up, turned off my phone, and leaned back into the seat, letting my exhausted body sink into a deep sleep. Perhaps it was the overwhelming fatigue of the past few weeks, but for the first time in ages, sleep came easily at 30,000 feet in the air. By the time I landed, night had already fallen. As I turned my phone back on, it nearly froze from the sheer number of notifications. Opening the messaging app, I saw the indicator for 99 unread messages. I frowned as I opened the messages. They were all from Ethan. Without exception, every one of them was asking where I had gone and why the company's biggest investor and client had suddenly pulled out. "Where are you? I'm coming to find you. I'm sorry. Come back and let's talk, okay?" I glanced at his long-winded texts and couldn't help but scoff. Was he reaching out because he truly regretted what happened, or was it because my mom had withdrawn her investment? It didn't matter anymore. I didn't reply. Instead, I deleted his number, blocked him all in one swift motion. As I stepped out of the airport, my mom, Sophia, was waiting for me with a bouquet in her arms. The passage of time had transformed her. She was no longer the melancholy figure I remembered, sitting silently on the couch, waiting for my father to return. Now, she was elegant and radiant, glowing with confidence and grace. "Lily, you've grown up," she said, her hand gently caressing my face as she apologized repeatedly. I hugged her tightly, tears welling up in my eyes. "Mom, I've never blamed you," I whispered softly. "You taught me that before loving anyone else, I must first love myself. 20 years ago, my mother made the same decision I've made now." Sophia tenderly wiped away my tears, though her own eyes had begun to glisten. "Lily, Ethan called me," she said gently. "No matter what you decide, I'll support you wholeheartedly." Before I could respond, my phone started ringing again. "Lil," Ethan's voice came through with a mix of relief and tremor, an unfamiliar blend of nervousness and anxiety. Confusion bubbled up within me. Grace was back in his life, so why did he still care so much about me, the so-called stand-in? "Lil, did you read my journal? None of that is true," he said urgently. "There's nothing between Grace and me, she's just my sister. You must be heartbroken. I saw the tear stains you left on my journal. I admit I've been neglectful lately, but I never meant to hurt you." His voice was laden with guilt. I felt a moment of disorientation, as if I were caught in an unreal dream. "Ethan, I know the only reason you married me was out of duty. That's why I'm choosing to leave, to let you and Grace be together." I tried to keep my voice calm and resolute. "What more could you possibly want? Why are you crying?" In his journal, Grace was the light in his darkest days, the most dazzling chapter of his life. But he had completely forgotten how, during that same period, I did everything I could to help him stand back on his feet. I spent all my savings to cover his losses. I ran around seeking partnerships, swallowing my pride to beg for help. I even drank in his place at business dinners, to the point where my health gave out and I lost our child. Yet none of that seemed to matter to him. All he remembered was the fleeting brilliance Grace brought into his life during those 3 months. He had Grace's name tattooed on his chest, but lied, saying it was just because he liked the design. In truth, his heart belonged entirely to Grace, that vibrant, spirited woman. Now that he had finally reunited with his so-called true love, why was he suddenly thinking about me? "I know why you ran away, Lil. You wanted revenge, right? I know you care about me. I'm the one you love most. You must be upset with me for neglecting you lately." "Lil, it's okay. I don't blame you. No matter what you've done, I'll forgive you." I took a deep breath, finding his words utterly ridiculous. "Ethan, don't flatter yourself. Take a good look in the mirror. What makes you think I'd ever love or miss someone like you?" With that, I hung up and added his number to my blacklist. Looking up at my mom, I forced a smile, but tears still slipped down my cheeks. These tears weren't purely of joy or sorrow, but a complex mix of emotions I couldn't put into words. Sophia gently patted my shoulder and comforted me with warmth in her voice. "It's all in the past now, sweetheart. I've planned a celebration to welcome you home. Let's start fresh." Sophia's welcome home celebration was uniquely thoughtful. She had been preparing for days. First, she took me to get a new haircut, dyeing my hair pink, and helped me pick out a brand new wardrobe. I threw away all my old floral dresses, discarding them like I had discarded Ethan and the love we once shared. Then, she brought me to the liveliest bar in the city. The music was deafening, and the alcohol was strong enough to wash away all the worries in my heart. Life in the city was exhilarating. I didn't have to think about the past anymore. Knowing how well I had performed academically in school, Sophia arranged for me to join her company as the creative director. With my team, we launched the most talked-about jewelry collection in years, just in time for the fall-winter season show. Wealthy women across the city were throwing down cash to get their hands on the entire set. Everyone wanted to own the collection. As a result, Sophia's company's market value skyrocketed. Once everything had settled down, I never expected Ethan to find me again. But then again, where else could I go? Aside from a small coastal town in Maine, I had nowhere else to escape to. Not long ago, I saw Grace flaunting her promotion at Ethan's company on social media. Her post was dripping with pride, like a rooster strutting after a victorious fight. I assumed the two of them were already together. But then, a man drenched from head to toe, disheveled and utterly pathetic, stood at my doorstep. "Lily, give me another chance. Can we talk?" he asked. My first instinct was to refuse. I tried to shove him back out the door, but he was too strong and forced his way in. I let out a sigh, staring at him coldly. "What do you want to say?" His face was pale, his exhaustion written all over him. "Lily, come back home with me," he pleaded. "I'll explain everything to my parents, to our family and friends. No one will blame you. As for the company losing its investors, I won't hold you accountable. I'll find new ones. All I need is for you to come back. I'll forgive you for running away from the wedding. I'll take care of everything, and we can start over again." He made a solemn vow. "I swear I'll treat you well. I won't let you down or hurt you ever again. After all these years we've been together, give me one more chance. Come back with me, please." His voice was hoarse, his eyes red. He clung to me tightly, his face full of sorrow. I laughed out loud, infuriated by his audacity. My expression turned icy as I looked him in the eye. "Ethan, what makes you think I need your forgiveness? And what makes you think I'd ever go back to you?" "Ethan, there's no future for us anymore. I haven't had feelings for you in a long time," I said calmly, feeling as though a massive weight had been lifted from my chest. "I won't forgive you, but I do wish you and Grace happiness. Go back. Whether it's with Grace or anyone else, that's your business. My life has moved on, and I need you to stop bothering me." Ethan wasn't ready to give up so easily. He made the drastic decision to leave his New York-based company and, ignoring everyone's advice, stubbornly stayed in town, determined to be near me. It didn't take long for Grace to catch wind of this and come chasing after him. She stormed up to me, her face contorted with anger. "Lily, you sure know how to play your cards, don't you? Running away from your wedding just to get his attention. Don't think you've won. I'll find a way to get him back." I looked at her calmly. This woman who had once taken my father, destroyed my happy family, and stolen every friend and lover I'd ever had. Everything I once cherished, everything I ever loved whether she wanted it or not, she took it from me. I used to hate Grace and her mistress of a mother with every fiber of my being. But now, all I felt was pity for them. In their world, there was no love, only endless battles. They saw every woman as a rival and treated unreliable men as trophies to be won. They had forgotten that beyond those men lay an even more vibrant, fulfilling world. "It doesn't matter. You'd better hurry up and drag him back to New York because I'm sick and tired of him buzzing around me like a fly," I said with indifference. Grace froze for a moment, then hurled a few torn pages of a diary at me. "What are you so smug about?" "He loves me," she declared triumphantly, launching into stories about her and Ethan's shared past. The moments I had once longed for, the memories I had dreamed of, were nothing more than ordinary anecdotes to her. Ethan, who was always so serious and proper in front of others, had completely let his guard down around her, showing her his truest self. I couldn't care less about what was written on those pages. That so-called pure love was nothing but a manifestation of selfish desires. Ethan only ever loved one person himself. I turned away, only to realize Ethan had been standing right behind me the entire time. He looked utterly defeated, a far cry from his usual pristine self. His hair was a mess, his eyes bloodshot, and his clothes wrinkled and unkempt. He suddenly lunged at Grace, slapping her hard across the face. "Shut up," he shouted furiously. "I won't let you ruin my relationship with Lily anymore. I've uncovered the truth. You don't love me. You've just been playing games, trying to hurt Lily. When you were supposedly working part-time in Seattle, it was all a lie. You ran off with some broke painter and only came back when you couldn't handle the struggle. You've been lying to me this whole time. You're the reason I lost Lily. She's the best thing that's ever happened to me, the one person who truly loves me." Grace clutched her face in disbelief, her eyes wide with shock. Ethan turned to me, his gaze sharp and piercing. "Lily, you knew exactly what kind of person she was. Why didn't you tell me? Why did you let me fall for her lies?" I looked at him and couldn't help but laugh. "Ethan, ask yourself, with whatever shred of conscience you have left, would you have believed me if I had? You would have just accused me of slandering your perfect angel. We've known each other for 12 years, since high school. Don't tell me you forgot how Grace treated me back then. Back in the day, when you carried me out of the school gym in the snowstorm, whose fault was that anyway? Stop trying to justify your actions. You liked sleeping with her, but now you're putting all the blame on her. Ethan, you're really a purebred idiot who thinks with his second brain. Maybe it was because my words were too harsh, or maybe his company was truly on the verge of collapse." Either way, Ethan fell silent for a long time afterward. Grace, knowing she was at fault, stopped flaunting her arrogance in front of me. The supplier from Chicago had a major issue. The raw materials were substandard, making the jewelry unsellable. My mom and I immediately flew to Chicago to hold a meeting with her business partners. "Who's handling the liaison at Tiansheng? How could they make such a rookie mistake?" I asked while flipping through the documents, my brows furrowed. "Their newly appointed business manager, Grace." As soon as the words left my mouth, Ethan and Grace pushed open the door. Hearing Grace's name didn't surprise me at all. Seeing their hands intertwined, I scoffed. My mom furrowed her brows the moment she saw Grace. Is Ethan out of his mind, putting such a fool in charge as a business manager? I shrugged with a smile, probably the power of love. Mom's business partner, as the client, was already fuming. He lashed out at them mercilessly. Grace, as usual, played the victim, failing to provide any useful solutions. Ethan had no choice but to awkwardly offer cigarettes and apologies. For him, this was likely a rare experience. Mom snapped the folder shut and tossed it onto the table with a crisp sound. "Ethan, do you think an apology will fix this? You've breached the contract severely, causing us at least $10 million in damages. Get ready to receive a lawsuit." It was only then that Ethan and Grace noticed us. Perhaps seeing him grovel in front of us made Ethan's face turn pale with fury. He glared at us, his voice venomous. "Lily, our raw materials were never the problem. You're deliberately picking a fight. I'm going to expose you, show the world just how unprofessional Sen's CEO and director are." I burst into laughter. "You really overestimate yourself, Ethan. Do you think we even care about Tiansheng anymore? Ask your little lover about why Tiansheng's raw materials are faulty." I tossed the third-party inspection report at them, forcing them to take a clear look. Ethan picked up the report, his face growing darker with rage. The report clearly stated that the raw materials specified in our contract and the defective ones they delivered were entirely different. The only person capable of orchestrating such a scheme was Grace herself. She deliberately did it to earn kickbacks and extra profit. We didn't bother wasting more time talking and immediately had our legal team start collecting evidence for the lawsuit before leaving. We hadn't walked far before we heard loud crashing sounds coming from the office. Turning back, I saw chairs and tables smashed into chaos, with Grace clutching her head, lying on the floor. A week later, I heard that Ethan had fired Grace. Initially, Ethan planned to use the CEN deal to give Tiansheng another lifeline, but the company had to pay us significant compensation, ultimately leading to its bankruptcy and liquidation. Seeing the news of Tiansheng's assets being auctioned off left me with mixed feelings. It was like watching someone build a grand tower only to see it collapse. After the bankruptcy, Ethan didn't seem ready to let me go. He showed up in Lowe's Angels every day, loitering outside the company, hoping to see me. No matter how much I tried to drive him away, he refused to leave. Eventually, I reported him to the police, and Ethan ended up in custody. It wasn't long before the rest of the Scott family arrived in Los Angeles. At first, they pleaded, but soon resorted to insults. They called me promiscuous for breaking off the engagement. They accused me of being heartless for sending my former lover to jail. It was then that Ethan finally spoke up. "It's all my fault. None of this has anything to do with Lily. I brought this on myself, driven by greed, unable to cherish what I had. I regret it. I truly regret it. Lily, I don't expect your forgiveness. I only hope you'll remember me." After multiple negotiations, Ethan finally paid the settlement and signed a guarantee before leaving Los Angeles. At our farewell, he asked me, "Will we ever have a chance to meet again?" I answered firmly, "No." Hearing this, to everyone's shock, Ethan broke down in tears, as helpless as a lost child. He muttered to himself, "Why did it have to come to this? Lily, you've been by my side for so long that I thought you'd never leave me. I thought no matter what I did, you'd forgive me. I never imagined you would leave, let alone that I'd lose you forever. After you left, I realized everything had changed. I never intended to hurt you. I just couldn't resist temptation. When I finally came to my senses, I knew I wouldn't choose Grace, but I couldn't let go of her wildness, so I tried turning you into her. I thought I could have both of you at the same time, but I forgot." Ethan's voice trembled as he spoke. He forgot that there is only one Lily in this world, unique, with all her flaws and virtues. Her eyes could never tolerate deceit, nor would she ever accept being someone's replacement. I held my mom, Sophia, by the arm, ready to leave this heartbreak behind. Ethan continued to speak behind us, his voice filled with desperation. "I saw the list of wishes you wrote on the calendar. Why is it that after all our time together, we never did even those little things? Apart from that blurry photo, I can't even find a single picture of us together. 12 years of knowing each other, 6 years of being in love. Looking back now, all I see is regret. I've been so foolish. I should have seen it sooner. It was my own desires that blinded me. I came here thinking that even if I couldn't bring you back, at least I could make up for some of the mistakes. But I didn't expect things to end like this. Lily, will you ever forgive me?" Ethan's voice was heavy with sorrow. I didn't answer. I simply kept moving forward. He already knew my answer. The sun shone brightly overhead, and I wasn't going to let the unworthy past hold me back. I didn't answer. I just kept walking. Whether forgiveness was granted or not, it no longer mattered. Lily's life was hers alone, and it was dazzling. From this day forward, Lily would only be the leading lady in her own story. End of the first story. Subscribe to my channel if you like my stories. Don't miss the second exciting story. Story 2. After my husband and his childhood sweetheart stole all my research achievements, I sued them until they were left penniless. At the age of 50, I was suddenly accused of plagiarism. Following the online accusations, I discovered that all the honorary certificates I had earned over half my life were fake. The real accolades were under the joint names of my husband and another woman. As my investigation deepened, I uncovered a shocking truth. I had been deceived by my entire family for over 40 years. Enough was enough. I decided to fight back and reclaim everything that rightfully belonged to me. One early in the morning, I received a frantic call from my old friend Chloe. Her voice was full of urgency. "Liv, you'd better check online. Someone is accusing you of plagiarism and academic fraud on your post, and they're threatening legal action." I was completely stunned. How could something so absurd happen? Plagiarism? Impossible. That's the result of 2 decades of dedicated research. After hanging up, I hurriedly put on my reading glasses and opened the post. To my shock, it had garnered tens of thousands of comments overnight, and every single one was filled with scorn and insults. The academic world needs to clean house. I can't believe Dr. Sophia's groundbreaking research was plagiarized. Absolutely disgraceful. Turns out the culprit is just some old lady with a high school diploma. What has the world come to? Someone had even posted screenshots of Dr. Sophia's so-called research paper under my post. To my astonishment, the concepts and theories presented in the paper were eerily similar to my own findings, down to the unique symbols and notations I habitually used. This couldn't be real. I refused to believe such a coincidence was possible. Those data points, those theories, they were the fruits of years of meticulous research. inspired by the medical manuscripts passed down through my family. I quickly located the full text of Dr. Sophia's paper online and compared it word by word. The results made my heart race. The level of similarity went far beyond coincidence. My gaze fell on the family portrait sitting on my desk, and I was lost in thought. My husband, Ethan, was abroad again for a lecture tour. Every year, he would take time to travel overseas for such engagements, usually for 3 to 6 months. Over the years, I had urged him to slow down as he got older, but he never listened. At least now, with our son and daughter taking turns accompanying him as his assistants, I could be somewhat at ease. After all, I worried about him traveling alone at his age. Before I knew it, I was deep in thought until my daughter called. "Mom, why haven't you picked up Lily yet? You know how busy and exhausted I am traveling abroad with Dad. Can't you be a little more considerate? How can you mess up something so simple? Dad is a renowned medical expert, and you, as a housewife, can't even help without causing trouble. Unbelievable." I hurried out to pick up my granddaughter, but I was in such a rush that I tripped on the stairs, scraping my knee. Blood quickly soaked through my pants. What? You injured your leg and can't pick up Lily and Jack? What's going on? Can't you just make things easier for everyone? We're so busy, and you keep adding to our stress. Mom, can't you just push through it? I'll lose pay if I take time off. My sons and daughter-in-law's reactions didn't surprise me much. With no other choice, I hobbled back home on my injured leg to bandage it, changed into clean pants, and went out again to pick up the kids. After bringing my granddaughter home, I dragged myself into the kitchen to prepare dinner. My son and daughter-in-law often left their children with me during the week, only taking them home on weekends. My daily routine had become entirely focused on taking care of my grandson and granddaughter. Once I supervised their homework, bathed them, and tucked them into bed, I finally had a moment to rest, massaging my sore back and injured knee. I called Ethan again. This time, it took him ages to pick up. "I told you I'm busy. Can't whatever this is wait until I'm back?" As I applied iodine to my wound, the sting made me suck in a sharp breath. Trying not to sound upset, I kept my tone calm. "Ethan, just listen to me for a moment. Did you, without my permission, publish the data and materials related to my genetic research? That data is incomplete, and the chain isn't fully developed. While there have been promising breakthroughs, it's still—" Ethan cut me off sharply, his tone growing more irritated. "Liv, you're over 50, how can you still talk so recklessly? What kind of person do you take me for?" I frowned. If it wasn't him, then who could it be? That data had never been shared publicly, nor had anyone outside our family had access to it. 3. The plagiarism scandal online continued to escalate. Chloe was tirelessly defending me, but the backlash against her only grew, and she became a target of insults herself. In desperation, I photographed the honorary certificates I had received over the years and uploaded them as evidence to prove I wasn't some fraud. Chloe, seeing my post, called me excitedly. "You should have done this ages ago. This will finally shut up those internet trolls. I always told you to be more assertive. Stop living as the invisible woman behind your husband's shadow." I knew she meant well, so I just smiled without agreeing or disagreeing. Sure enough, ever since I presented all those research achievements and certificates of honor co-signed with my husband, Ethan, the negative voices online started to die down significantly. Turns out Mrs. Liv actually comes from a prestigious family in the pharmaceutical field and has earned so many accolades in her lifetime. Wow, she's a respected figure in the medical community. Maybe the plagiarism accusations were just a misunderstanding. Just as I began to feel a shred of relief, someone posted a series of photos claiming my certificates were forged. That post was like a boulder thrown into a calm lake, stirring up chaos all over again. The photos showed academic achievements identical to mine, with Ethan's name on them, but they weren't co-signed by me, his lawful wife. Instead, the name on them belonged to a woman called Sophia. I could hardly believe my eyes. With trembling hands, I opened the academic verification site sent by a netizen and began checking the serial numbers one by one against the stack of certificates I held. My heart sank deeper with each search. By the time I finished, I realized every single certificate I had was fake. The registered name on the official records was none other than Sophia. A lifetime of honor fabricated, and these certificates, every last one of them, had been personally handed to me by Ethan himself. How could they be fake? I had never questioned their authenticity. The mere idea of them being forged had never even crossed my mind. For years, I poured my heart and soul into supporting Ethan's research, even drawing from the Liv family's century-old pharmaceutical manuscripts to aid him. Every research achievement, I willingly let him claim and use to apply for patents. Ethan had always reassured me that his continuous accolades would lead to greater recognition in the medical community, far more meaningful than any recognition I could achieve as a stay-at-home wife. He said this would benefit our family and even pave the way for our children's future. Now, I can't even bring myself to read the comments online. All I see are waves of criticism crashing down on me, and I have no way to respond. I had no choice but to issue a temporary public apology. Here, I, along with my husband, Professor Ethan from the University of Washington, sincerely apologize to the public. Due to our issues, we've consumed a significant amount of public resources and caused negative social discourse. We promise to work with the relevant authorities to investigate the origins of the forged certificates and provide the public with a satisfactory explanation. I still believed Ethan was unaware of all this. I couldn't imagine him being complicit in something so despicable. I shared my thoughts with my longtime friend Chloe. She, too, believed that Ethan's lifelong reputation as a virtuous and principled professor made it impossible for him to have known or participated in such a disgraceful act. For hours, Chloe and I speculated about the possible culprits. Perhaps someone powerful within the industry had exploited our certificates to fabricate their own success and tarnish my reputation. If that were the case, I needed to start gathering evidence. Then, another storm erupted online. Oh my God, her lies have been completely exposed. This Olivia woman still has the audacity to embellish her story and shamelessly claim to be Professor Ethan's wife. How delusional. I suggest the authorities thoroughly investigate this Olivia. She's utterly brazen, daring to slander a giant in the medical field while falsely claiming to be Mrs. Ethan. Disgusting. She's probably just a mistress. I found a family photo of Professor Ethan's real family online. There's no sign of this Olivia in it. Attached to the post was a photo. In the picture, Ethan stood happily beside a woman, each holding certificates of honor. Standing on either side of them were my 2 children, smiling brightly. And that woman. The more I looked, the more familiar she seemed. I grabbed a magnifying glass to scrutinize the image closely. What I saw left me utterly stunned. It was Sophie. She was my father's former student, my junior colleague from years ago. 30 years ago, she fled the country after causing a fatal accident due to malpractice. Now, she had rebranded herself as Sophia. Seeing Ethan and Sophia posing so intimately in that photo left me in a daze. And then there were my 2 children whom I had painstakingly raised happily leaning on them, as though they were a family. But I'm Ethan's wife, I'm their mother, yet here I was, reduced to nothing more than a clown, hiding behind a screen, watching someone else live my life. The 3 people I loved most in this world were smiling so radiantly with Sophia, looking every bit like a perfect family. So where did that leave me? The tears came pouring out, unstoppable, like a broken string of pearls. I couldn't even remember the last time I cried. Taking off my glasses with trembling hands, I tried to wipe my tears away, but they just kept coming. At that moment, it felt as though the very light in the room had dimmed. I couldn't sit there for another second. The suffocating darkness of the room was too much to bear. I called a cab and went straight to Chloe's house. Chloe and her husband began helping me analyze the situation, weighing the pros and cons. Chloe said the priority right now should be confronting my children. They clearly knew about Sophia and even took so-called family photos with her at different times. It was obvious they were keeping me in the dark. Chloe was indignant on my behalf, her anger palpable. Her husband, a retired detective, shook his head resolutely. No, you can't alert them just yet, because we have no idea how deep the deception runs or how much Ethan and his children have hidden from you. The most important thing right now is to see it all for yourself, verify everything, and protect your own interests. After much contemplation, I made up my mind. I decided to go to Morgan University in Germany, where my husband often went to lecture, and see things for myself. When my son and daughter-in-law heard I was planning a trip, they were utterly shocked. "Mom, you're getting old and you've never traveled far before. Please don't make things harder for us." "Mom, you can't be this selfish. Think about it, if you leave, who's going to look after Ryan and Lily? You know how busy we are every day." I massaged my temples, already worn out. "I'm only going for a few days. You can handle taking care of them for a short while. If it's really too much, then hire a nanny." My son got defensive. "Mom, that's easy for you to say. You're a housewife, so of course you don't understand how hard it is to earn money nowadays. A nanny costs at least a couple $1,000s a month, and we simply can't afford that." I frowned and replied, "You both make $3,000 or $4,000 a month, and Ethan still sends you financial support regularly. How could you possibly not afford it? Mom's getting older and just wants a little break. Can't you see?" Both my son and daughter-in-law cut me off. "We still need to upgrade to a bigger house, enroll Ryan in extracurricular classes, and we're planning to buy a new car by the end of the year. Mom, could you please stop being so unreasonable and impulsive?" Their words were filled with criticism aimed squarely at me. Several times, I wanted to ask them questions, but I swallowed my words. That night, I approached their bedroom door, intending to talk to my son. Just as I was about to knock, I overheard their conversation inside. "My mom is so clueless, honestly. She's such a hassle." "Exactly. Your sister was right compared to Aunt Sophia. Your mom is really lacking. No wonder your dad prefers Aunt Sophia over this old relic. Your sister even said she would have divorced her ages ago if she were in his shoes." My dad is just too kind-hearted. He's been nothing but considerate towards my mom. The reason he and Aunt Sophia never truly got together is entirely because of her. True, Aunt Sophia is so elegant and refined, with such a generous personality. Plus, she's a university professor. Last time I saw her, she even gifted me a YSL bag that must have cost thousands. I feel sorry for them. It's such a waste of half a lifetime. Even now, they can't be together as soulmates. Aunt Sophia is so talented and graceful. She and Dad are the perfect match. Look at your mom, she's still in pretty good health. She could easily live another 10 or 20 years, which would be such a pity for Dad and Aunt Sophia. Honestly, I admire how Dad has endured her for 30 or 40 years. I stood silently outside the door, my hands and feet cold, my heart sinking to the bottom of the abyss. Luckily, Dad has his ways. Every year, he finds excuses to travel abroad with Aunt Sophia for lectures. We've all benefited from it, getting to go on international trips every other year. So it was true, my children knew everything and deliberately kept me in the dark, treating me like a fool. They only saw me as a free nanny, never acknowledging my contributions. They even sympathized with Ethan and Sophia, thinking I was the one standing in the way of their happiness. Furious, I found myself laughing bitterly, laughing at how I had wasted half my life, becoming a stepping stone for others. My children and husband, every single one of them, sided with an outsider. They probably all wished I'd disappear sooner rather than later. The next day, I resolutely went to apply for a passport and visa. While waiting, I feigned illness and stopped looking after their kids or doing housework. I ate lunch and dinner outside before coming home. My son and daughter-in-law grumbled constantly about it, but I shut my door and ignored them. A few days later, I received my passport and plane ticket. The plane took off, soaring over mountains and rivers. I gazed greedily at the scenery outside the window, slowly detaching myself from the anger I'd been holding onto. For years, Ethan had traveled around the world giving lectures at prestigious universities, and I never doubted him. Occasionally, I'd suggest accompanying him. Ethan always said, "Nobody brings their spouse along. If I take you, people will think I'm an old man flaunting my status, bringing my wife along like it's some big deal. It wouldn't look good for me." I remember arguing with him about it at the time. Why would bringing me along make you look bad? I'm not some clueless country bumpkin. Every award and certificate you've earned had my name on it too. Every achievement of yours has my effort behind it. Other than not having your level of education, I'm your equal in every other way. Whenever I argued like this with Ethan, our children would rush in to mediate. They all sided with my husband, Ethan, saying that as a middle school graduate and a barefoot doctor, my presence would only bring disgrace. They claimed it would drag down the reputation of our children as well. Each time I tried to argue, the whole family joined forces to condemn me. It was as if, without that diploma, I didn't deserve to live under the sun or have the right to showcase my talents confidently. Day by day, as I grew older, my competitive spirit gradually faded. It was worn down by the mundane chores of cooking, cleaning, and raising children. Reflecting on this, my heart felt unbearably bitter, but it also solidified my determination to see things with my own eyes. When my plane landed in Germany's Morgan University city, it was already evening. Following the address from where their packages had been sent over the years, I finally found the apartment building. What they didn't know was that my German had always been excellent. Originally, my family planned to send me to Germany for further studies. But after that incident, I married Ethan, and the topic of studying abroad was never brought up again. I asked the neighbors for information. An elderly lady told me that the apartment was home to a couple of professors from the East. Apparently, they were deeply in love, visiting Germany for 3 months every year. They were always seen holding hands, coming and going together, and they owned 2 shepherd dogs that they walked every evening. They were the model couple of the street, admired and respected by everyone. I sat on a bench at the street corner, watching the people passing by. As the sun began to set, the apartment door opened. That familiar figure emerged alongside a stylishly dressed woman holding their dogs on leashes. I watched them approach, waiting until they passed me before speaking. "Ethan, you're quite something, coming all the way here to enjoy the best of both worlds." Ethan immediately let go of the woman's hand, looking at me in panic. "Fifi, what are you doing here? When did you arrive?" Ignoring him, I turned to the woman instead. "Sophie, long time no see." "Oh, right, Soph, I almost forgot you've changed your name. Should I call you Sophie or Sophia?" Sophia was far calmer than Ethan. She even smiled and extended her hand toward me. "Fifi, it's been ages since we last met." "Fifi, don't misunderstand. I have no intention of stealing your husband. Ethan is just visiting me. There's nothing improper between us." Without hesitation, I raised my hand and slapped her across the face. "Nothing improper? Do you take me for a blind fool?" I turned to Ethan, raising my hand again, but he caught it mid-air. "Fifi, calm down. Let me explain." Switching to my other hand, I delivered another sharp slap across his face. "Explain. So you can spin more lies to deceive me? I don't care for explanations. I only trust the evidence in front of my eyes." Glancing at the surrounding neighbors, I pointed at Sophia and shouted in fluent German, "You shameless woman destroying someone else's family, you're a disgrace." Then, pointing at Ethan, I continued, "You hypocritical professor, you're unfit to teach and guide students. You hide your filth and keep a mistress while lecturing about morals and values." What a joke, this was a university town, home to prominent figures from the academic world. My string of fluent German left the neighbors stunned. When they processed the meaning of my words, the entire street erupted. People started pointing fingers at them and gossiping. The crowd grew larger and larger, eventually attracting security to maintain order. I had seen what I came to confirm and achieved the effect I wanted. I no longer felt the need to argue with them. "Soph, don't be nervous. I didn't come here to start a fight. I just wanted to see if it's all true. Now that I've seen it, I can finally let go. I just wanted to share what I've witnessed with these unsuspecting neighbors. That's all. I'm done here. I wish you both happiness. Goodbye." With that, I turned and walked away, pushing through the crowd without looking back. Ethan finally snapped out of it and called after me urgently. "Fifi, wait, you don't know your way around here. Let me book you a room." I couldn't help but laugh at his absurdity. "Ethan, don't pretend to be kind, it's revolting." I walked faster, ignoring their reactions entirely. Later that evening, someone knocked on my hotel room door. It was my daughter. "Mom, how could you be so reckless, causing a scene all the way in Germany? Do you realize how damaging this is? Dad has put up with you for half a lifetime, kept up appearances, and never divorced you. He's provided for you all these years. Do you have any gratitude? Anyone with eyes can see that Dad and Aunt Sophia are meant to be together. They've been restraining themselves for your sake, only meeting abroad once a year. Yet you don't appreciate it and come here to stir up trouble." I laughed bitterly and pointed at my daughter, asking her, "Am I your mother, or is Sophia your mother? What spell has she cast on you that makes you so determined to defend an outsider? Is it because she bought you a few designer bags, gold bracelets, and shows generosity. Do you even know how your father achieved all his scientific breakthroughs over the years? It was because of me, your mother, tirelessly staying up night after night, researching and assisting him. Without me, Ethan wouldn't have accomplished anything. Over the years, if it hadn't been for me, Ethan wouldn't be where he is today. The papers he published, and those achievements, how many of them were entirely his own. Others may not know, but don't you? My daughter faltered under my angry tirade, feeling slightly guilty. However, she quickly adjusted her tone and refuted me. Yes, I admit Dad achieved many awards and results because of your help, but have you ever put yourself in his shoes? I frowned, puzzled by her words. If it had been Aunt Sophia by Dad's side all these years instead of you, Dad would have accomplished even greater and more remarkable achievements. Mom, these years, you didn't help Dad succeed, you held him back, dragging him down. Those accomplishments were nothing more than Dad's kind lies. He said those things to comfort you, to prevent you from feeling useless, but you believed it all. You're so naive. Mom, honestly, you should think about your own abilities. A high school dropout working as a barefoot doctor, how much weight do you think you carry? Others may not believe it, but even your own children, me and your son Alex, wouldn't dare say this out loud to anyone. People would laugh at us, do you understand? Her harsh words stung me deeply, leaving me speechless. My daughter sighed and softened her tone, taking my hand. Mom, please listen to me. Tomorrow, go to Morgan University, stand in front of everyone, and personally apologize to Dad. Admit that all of this was your unreasonable behavior and restore his reputation. If you keep stirring up trouble like this, it'll only hurt both sides. If Dad becomes truly heartbroken, he might fully turn towards Aunt Sophia. And when that happens, don't blame me for not helping you. I trembled with disbelief, staring at her. You think it's all my fault, and you want me to publicly apologize to your father? Suppressing my fury, I nodded. As you wish. The next morning, my daughter came early to pick me up. I remained silent the entire way, following her to Morgan University. While waiting, I went to the restroom and coincidentally ran into Sophia. Olivia, 40 years have passed in a blink. Back then, you couldn't compete with me, and now you still can't. Ethan's heart has always been with me, not you. Even though he married you, his heart has always belonged to me. Did you see the apartment in Germany? It's under my name, a property gifted to me by him. I stared coldly at Sophia's obviously surgically altered face. And what is this, a challenge to the rightful wife? Sophia, the monarchy has been dead for centuries. Your speech is nothing but evidence for me to use against you. I am Ethan's legal spouse. Any property he gifted you during our marriage falls under shared marital assets. I have the right to reclaim them. Sophia laughed so hard she was gasping for air. If I dare to say this to your face, I'm not afraid of you. You don't have any evidence to prove what I just said. All the paperwork is legitimate and flawless, you're powerless, haha. And back then, your father favored you so much that he refused to pass your family's medical compendium to me. Over a trivial matter, he ruthlessly cut ties with me. Today, everything you're facing is your own doing. I was shocked by her shameless arguments. You dare to mention the past. If it weren't for your despicable act of seducing Ethan, followed by framing me, would my father have treated you that way? And let's not forget you fled abroad because you killed someone my father had every right to report you to the police. How dare you twist the story into him being ruthless towards you? Sophia, you're clearly suffering from something incurable. At this point, my heart hardened like steel, leaving no room for hesitation. Suddenly, Sophia opened her phone and displayed photos of my handwritten drafts. I stared at her phone, my eyes widening in shock as I carefully identified the images. Recognize these? Surprised. Your beloved husband personally handed them over to me, providing me with these materials for reference. Olivia, no matter how talented you are, I'll trample your work, rewrite it tenfold more elegantly, and claim it as my original creation. Sophia laughed uncontrollably, flaunting one photo after another on her phone. Look, this is an offer from the National Academy of Sciences. This one is from the Social Science Research Institute. And here's a proposal from a top-tier financial group in New York City. How pathetic, Olivia. You've spent a lifetime supporting your family, guarding treasures, yet you're nothing more than a pitiful housewife. You've never seen the bigger world, have you? If I'm not mistaken, this is probably your first trip abroad, isn't it? It's laughable, pitiful, I even feel sorry for you. But alas, there's nothing you can do. You have no way out, haha, Sophia laughed wildly, her voice dripping with arrogance. I stood there, my face pale, unable to utter a single word. What you're doing is theft, plagiarism, it's… Sophia leaned in close and whispered in a low voice. These are original documents, personally gifted to me by my dear brother-in-law. With the originals in my possession, I am the creator. Morgan University was hosting an international academic seminar, drawing plenty of media attention from around the globe. Yesterday's incident had only spread within the confines of the apartment and hadn't caused much of a stir. Ethan and his daughter were counting on me to clear the air today. I chuckled coldly. As you wish. Throughout the seminar, I maintained a quiet demeanor, blending into the background until Sophia stood up and proudly announced her latest research achievements. The audience erupted into applause. I watched Ethan's face light up with pride as he exchanged a glance with Sophia, while my heart grew colder by the second. Soon, several scholars from the audience began asking questions. Dr. Sophia, your proposed theories this time only provide conclusions. Can you share the process of how you arrived at them? The genetic deduction data released seems incomplete, with several areas showing signs of missing information. One by one, the attendees voiced their doubts, leaving Sophia visibly flustered. She turned helplessly to Ethan for support. Ethan stood up and announced that Dr. Sophia needed time to organize her materials and promised that she would provide the complete data, calculations, and methodology within 3 days. The questioning continued, with scholars and research institutes pressing further. Dr. Sophia, is the second half of your breakthrough on genetics, which you released last month, also going to be revealed in 3 days? Ethan responded with a smile, agreeing to disclose the remaining findings in 3 days. As he spoke, he glanced at me with a pleading smile, hoping to win my favor. I shifted my gaze toward the window and smirked coldly. Now he remembers me. What he doesn't know is that those scholars were tipped off by anonymous messages I sent last night, deliberately sowing suspicion and encouraging them to ask hard questions. These academics, focused solely on their pursuit of knowledge, had no idea about the schemes behind the scenes. So today, they directly voiced their concerns without hesitation. Satisfied with the outcome, I turned and left. I spent the rest of the day leisurely exploring Morgan University town, snapping photos of castles, bridges, and towering ancient trees. Every corner bore the mark of my footprints. It had been a long time since I felt this carefree and unburdened, living for myself and myself alone. But as night fell, standing at the entrance of my hotel, I encountered the last people I wanted to see. Ethan and Sophia. Upon spotting me, they rushed over eagerly. Sis, where did you go? We tried calling you, but you didn't pick up. Fifi, you shouldn't wander around in a foreign country like this. What if you got lost and couldn't find your way back? The two of them, who had been cold and distant before, suddenly became as warm and friendly as old friends. Fifi, you're not still upset, are you? Yesterday, I was worried you'd be too emotional, so I asked my daughter to talk to you. I thought you'd understand my situation. Over the years, there's been nothing improper between me and Sophia. We're close colleagues, discussing research and lecturing together. It's not as sordid as you imagine. Sophia chimed in as well. That's right, sis. You've always been narrow-minded since your youth, and it's surprising to see you still so stubborn and paranoid in old age. Ethan is such a good man. How could you slander him like this? If he had really wanted to be with me, we'd have done so years ago. But the reason we've stayed clean and professional all these years is because he can't let go of you. Looking at their insincere faces, I laughed. Can't let go of me? Is it me he can't let go of, or the pharmaceutical compendium handed down by my father? I think it's the legacy of the medical texts and formulas that he clings to. All these years, I've been foolish enough to let myself be manipulated, constantly belittling myself, willingly standing in his shadow, silently supporting his research. I was the only fool who handed over all my research results to him, believing in the so-called shared ambition of a husband and wife team, and content to live a life of anonymity behind the scenes. Sophia stepped forward, her tone urgent. How can you think of Ethan like that? He's your husband, and he didn't even flinch when you threw yourself at him all those years ago. You've been married for nearly 50 years, how could he despise you now? Fifi, We've spent most of our lives living with resentment. Let's just let it go. Don't dwell on it anymore. If my presence makes you uncomfortable, I can promise you this: once this issue is resolved, I'll leave the country forever and go into hiding, never appearing in front of you two again. Ethan, overcome with emotion, took Sophia's hand. Sophia began to sob uncontrollably. Ethan, it's not Fifi's fault, it's all on me. I watched the two of them perform their melodrama in front of me, remaining silent. Sure enough, after a while, Ethan began to panic. Fifi, I left in such a hurry that I didn't have time to copy the second half of the genetic research. Could you send it to me? I sneered. Didn't have time to copy it, or because I hadn't finished writing it yet. Someone couldn't wait and took the first half, eager to meet his lover and claim the credit? Ethan's smile froze instantly. He avoided my gaze, guilt written all over his face. It's not that. I'm just worried that if I rush her too much, Fifi will have a hard time. I laughed even louder. Oh, so now Dr. Ethan finally admits that those research results are actually my achievements. Then why did you forge a bunch of fake certificates for me, while handing the real honors to Sophia? This is fraud, stealing my research and shamelessly taking credit for my labor. Sophia frowned and retorted, Fifi, you're getting carried away. Why make this such a big deal? You're just a high school dropout, a backwoods healer. What good would these honors do for you? It's better for me to have them. After all, I graduated from Stanford. With these achievements, I can climb higher and gain even more recognition. Ethan chimed in, backing her up. Fifi, we're family, Soph's right. These things really don't mean much to you. You don't even have a college degree. If your name's on them, they might not even get published. People would question their credibility. I couldn't just stand by and watch your research get buried like that. I stared at him, utterly shocked by his shameless reasoning. Ethan, I said, my voice trembling with anger, do you really not know why I got expelled from high school and why I ended up marrying you so young? Are you seriously going to pretend you don't know? I pointed at Sophia. It was you. I just found out it was you who framed me back then. You drugged him, got into his bed, and played the victim to manipulate me into taking the fall for you. You got me expelled from school. You too ruined my life, and now you dare to gaslight me? And Ethan, you didn't leave the country because my dad was angry with you. Quite the opposite, my dad covered for you. He hid the fact that you caused a patient's death. Sophia, how do you have the audacity to come back, to call yourself a doctor? Smack. Sophia, visibly enraged, raised her hand to slap me, but I caught her wrist in midair. Fifi, stop slandering me, she snapped. I'm not lying, I shouted back. Ethan, don't believe her. She's only saying these things to stir up trouble. Ethan's expression shifted as he looked between us, and the two of them began to argue. I used the opportunity to retreat to my room, slamming the door behind me. The next day, and the day after that, they came back, desperate to see me. Sophia even sent me a message. Fifi, if you hand over the second half of the research, I'll split the commission with you. Otherwise, Ethan and I will be on the hook for massive breach of contract penalties. The consequences won't just affect us, they'll affect you too. I read the message, then deleted it without hesitation. They signed those contracts, not my problem. This time, I didn't even bother meeting them. The deadline was looming, and they were completely stuck. That's because the key data hidden in the research papers existed only in my mind. Not even my original drafts contained them. What used to be a bad habit of mine, keeping things in my head, had now become my saving grace, a way to prove my worth. After all, Ethan had only ever helped with proofreading and formatting. The theories and core ideas were entirely mine. And now they wanted me to bail them out. Dream on. For 3 days, I indulged myself with good food, good wine, and some much-needed relaxation. On the 4th day, just as they were scrambling to find me, I boarded a plane back home. Waiting for me at the airport was my son and his family. Mom, why didn't you tell us you were going to see Dad? My son asked, clearly frustrated. I wasn't in the mood to sugarcoat anything. What, do I need your permission to go somewhere now? My daughter-in-law quickly stepped forward to take my luggage. No, Mom, that's not what he meant. By the way, she added, the first half of your research that you published. It caught the attention of a top scientist at the National Academy of Sciences. They're urging us to deliver the second half as soon as possible. I'd already heard about this. Unable to reach me, they'd contacted my old friend Chloe, who told them I'd be returning today. That report isn't mine, I said coolly. Didn't your dad and your Aunt Sophie write it together? Why don't you ask them? I'm just a high school dropout, a country doctor. I can't help you. My son, unusually conciliatory, tried to appease me. Mom, come on. If anyone knows the truth, it's me. Most of that research was yours. Dad was just your assistant. Please, don't stay mad. But I couldn't be bothered to argue. I grabbed my suitcase, hailed a cab, and headed straight to a hotel. My son and daughter-in-law trailed after me, pleading for me to come home, but I wouldn't budge. Go back. Why? To play maid and nanny to your entire family? I'm old, I'm tired, and I'm done. I'm staying here to enjoy some peace and quiet. Don't bother me unless it's important. Later that evening, Chloe arrived at the hotel with a lawyer she'd helped me hire. The lawyer presented me with 2 draft lawsuits, one to charge Ethan with bigamy and another to accuse Ethan and Sophia of stealing my research. I had already gathered all the evidence, photos, videos, handwritten notes. It was more than enough to convict them. Liv, Chloe said, I was worried you might soften up. After all, they've been using your kindness against you for decades. I shook my head. My resolve had never been clearer. I've spent most of my life working hard and sacrificing for others. Looking back now, it all feels so pointless. For the years I have left, I've decided to live for myself and rediscover who I truly am. Ethan and Sophia returned much sooner than I had anticipated. My son and daughter helped Ethan to the hotel where I was staying. Mom, what are you thinking? How could you be so selfish and actually file a lawsuit against Dad? Fifi, we're husband and wife, a family. Have you thought about the consequences of what you're doing? We have children, grandchildren, and even great-grandchildren. What's the point of all this? Mom, do you really want to see this family fall apart before you're satisfied? How can you be so selfish? Have you ever considered the position you're putting us in? How are we supposed to face the world after this? Exactly, Mom, how could you be so heartless? Dad has lived his whole life with integrity, and now all of that is destroyed. And those huge breach of contract penalties, how do you expect our family to survive? They cried and shouted, each one more dramatic than the last, while I sat there with my arms crossed, calmly sipping my tea. How you live is your business. I glanced at them indifferently. Now you think you can criticize me? Where were your concerns when you betrayed me, looked down on me, and even went behind my back to call someone else your mother? Did anyone care whether I lived or died back then? Breach of contract penalties? I chuckled. What does that have to do with me? I didn't receive a dime. When you make mistakes, you pay the price. The ones who profited are also the ones who should bear the consequences. In the end, amid their accusations and curses, I asked the hotel security to escort them all out. My case, though seemingly complicated, was actually quite straightforward. With both witnesses and evidence in hand, the verdict was delivered swiftly. If I had refused to mediate, Ethan would have faced up to 2 years in prison for bigamy. However, I am a kind-hearted person and was willing to give him a chance. We finalized the divorce without delay. After Ethan agreed to leave the marriage with nothing and officially registered his marriage with Sophia, I withdrew my charges of bigamy. But the charges of plagiarism, those stuck. Both Ethan and Sophia were stripped of their professor titles, reduced to nobodies with no pensions to fall back on. I sold my fully developed research findings to a major corporation and received a handsome amount in return. I used the money to relocate to a luxury gated community with excellent security, where outsiders can hardly gain access. I'd rather hire a housekeeper than live with my children again. In fact, it's nearly impossible for them to even see me now. Every year, I travel the world, visiting far-off places. I've also been appointed as an honorary professor at a prestigious research institute, dedicating my efforts to revising and perfecting the Olivia Pharmacopoeia for the National Archives. One sunny afternoon, my old friend Chloe came over again to enjoy my premium tea. As she watched me meticulously tending to my garden filled with fruits, vegetables, and flowers, she sighed with genuine admiration. Liv, now this is what I call living. You wouldn't believe how miserable Ethan is now. He and that Sophie moved into a shabby rental apartment. Without a pension, they've resorted to selling used books on the street just to make ends meet. If not for the occasional help from their son and daughter, they'd probably be starving by now. And get this, remember the family of the patient Sophia lost all those years ago. They've tracked them down, and are demanding compensation every single day. Ethan and Sophie are constantly fighting, and apparently he even got into a physical altercation with her. She broke his leg. Oh, and I heard they've started leaving funeral wreaths at their door. Even the landlord is trying to evict them now. I sat there, calmly pruning my bonsai tree while Chloe chattered on and on. I clipped away the excess branches, leaving only the most radiant bloom to stand alone in its glory. The golden hues of autumn bathed the garden in a soft, warm glow. I smiled, basking in the beauty of it all, content, serene and utterly at peace.